Okay, so let's just jump right in. The world right now feels like it's in the middle of some kind of intense, crazy change. You've probably felt it too. But what if this isn't things falling apart? We're about to unpack a really fascinating roundtable discussion with a group of visionaries who say this isn't an ending at all. No, they see humanity as being on the very edge of a massive transformation, a move from collapse to a pretty profound rebirth. This one idea right here, it's the key to everything else we're going to talk about. It completely reframes all the chaos we're seeing, the political stuff, the economic stress, all the upheaval. It suggests these aren't signs of decay, but actually the messy, necessary, and sometimes painful process of a planet-wide upgrade. So, where does a transformation like this even begin? Well, according to this group, it starts with our sun. We're in a period of really intense solar activity. You've seen the news. But they argue these are way more than just random space weather events. They see them as a deliberate kickstart for change.
Okay, this is the core concept, and it's a big one. The idea is that these solar flares aren't just random bursts of energy. They're described as exchanges or even light codes. Basically, these waves of cosmic energy are interacting with our own energy fields, our bodies, our consciousness, and they're flipping switches, activating parts of our potential that have been dormant. It's less about being changed by the sun and more about who we really are being revealed.
So, let me ask you, have you felt any of this lately? That weird pressure in your head, ringing in your ears that comes out of nowhere? Or just sudden waves of emotion? Maybe your dreams have been super vivid. According to these visionaries, these things aren't just in your head. They're actual physical signs that your body and your nervous system are recalibrating to these new, higher frequency energies. It's kind of like your body's getting a massive software update, and yeah, it can feel pretty intense. And that quote just sums it up perfectly, doesn't it? The whole point of this first stage is that we're being invited to see the sun not as some distant passive ball of gas, but as an active partner in our own evolution, a force that is, quite literally, waking us up. Okay, but that leads to a huge question, right? If these cosmic energies are pushing us to awaken, why does it look like the world is going completely haywire? Well, this next part frames all that instability, all that chaos, as a totally necessary, if difficult, ordeal on our path to something new. This really lays out the conflict we're in. On one side, you have the old world, all these rigid, top-down systems built on secrets and control. And on the other, you have the values of the new earth trying to emerge. Things like being adaptable, being transparent, working together, and trusting our own inner wisdom. The chaos we're seeing, that's just the friction between these two worlds as one dissolves to make room for the other. And this is the most crucial part to remember. This upheaval isn't a sign that we failed. The visionaries call it a frequency purge, like a planet-wide energetic detox. They use this amazing metaphor of contractions before a birth. Sure, it's painful and chaotic, but it's absolutely necessary to bring forth new life. The world is literally clearing out all the old, dense energy that just can't exist in this new frequency. All right, now we get to what might be the biggest turning point in this whole predicted future. The entire roundtable unanimously pointed to a very specific window of time, 2026 to 2027, as a kind of threshold, a moment where humanity is going to be faced with undeniable proof of extraterrestrial life. Now, this isn't going to be like the movies, with spaceships landing on the White House lawn. They described it as a much more gradual, phased process. Right now, we're supposedly in the pre-contact phase, which is all about individual, intuitive experiences, dreams, telepathy, that kind of thing. But that 2026 to 27 window, that's the collective threshold, where the proof becomes so widespread and so obvious that it just shifts the entire global consciousness. And the ultimate goal? For humanity to finally see itself as part of a much, much bigger galactic family. And that's the real question, isn't it? A revelation like that wouldn't just be another news story. It would fundamentally change everything we think we know about ourselves, our history, and our place in the cosmos. I mean, what would that actually look like for us? So what would this new human story even feel like? Well, the visionaries suggest it would be just massive. For starters, it would dissolve all the illusions of separation, the borders, the religions, by giving us a new, unified identity as cosmic beings. They believe it would dismantle any power structure that relies on keeping secrets. And it could even trigger these deep, ancient memories of our own star origins, shifting our entire species from a place of fear into one of deep curiosity and exploration. It will completely change the game. So after this huge awakening, this potential contact, what happens to us? This is where the speakers start describing the emergence of a new human, the next stage in our evolution, and not just with our technology, but in our biology and our consciousness. And the mechanism for this evolution, they call it DNA activation. It's a really cool way to think about it. Imagine your DNA isn't just a fixed biological blueprint, but it's more like a living, dynamic antenna. And the idea is that this antenna can be tuned to these higher frequencies coming from the cosmos, unlocking abilities and perceptions that have been asleep for thousands of years. So what are the traits of this new human? Well, according to the group, they would blend their logical mind with a really powerful, trusted intuition. Psychic abilities, like telepathy or just knowing things are about to happen, could become as normal as seeing or hearing. Society would naturally become more collaborative, and on a personal level, people would be able to think, heal, and process their emotions way, way faster, all while living with this constant awareness of their bigger, multidimensional self. Now, this all sounds like a pretty wild ride, but the speakers were crystal clear on one thing. This future isn't set in stone. This final section is maybe the most important because it brings it all back to us. It's all about the power of our free will and the practical steps we can actually take to navigate all this change. This is such a crucial distinction to make. They argue that predictions are not destiny. Think of astrology. They say it shows you the energetic weather, but you still decide how to sail your ship. A psychic vision? That's just a snapshot of the most likely path if nobody changes course, but the course can be changed. They believe all possible futures exist at the same time, and we choose which one we experience through our personal and collective energy, our vibration. Basically, our state of being literally attracts a reality that matches it. The future isn't fixed. We can rewrite the code. So how do we actively choose a better timeline? How do we surf this massive wave of change? The roundtable offered some really practical advice. First, heal your own trauma, because fear is what anchors you to those negative outcomes. Second, strengthen your intuition. It's your most reliable guide through the chaos. Third, don't cling to the old world as it falls apart. Learn to align with the cycles of collapse and rebirth. Fourth, practice discernment. Blend that gut feeling with clear logic. And finally, maybe the simplest one of all, follow your genuine excitement. They call it the compass that points you directly to your best possible future. At the end of the day, this whole story isn't about just sitting back and waiting for some destiny that's already been written for us. It's a call to participate. It leaves us with this incredible, powerful idea that we are not just watching the future unfold, we are the very consciousness the universe is using to decide what comes next. So the real question isn't what's going to happen. The real question is, what future are we going to choose to create?